Back in the day, I used to be a performer. That's how I got the name Remex. I was in a rap group with my homie DL Murray. So we were in a duo called Model Citizens. And we were just doing shows constantly. And I think what really hit me was he hit me up like one day, like, "Hey man, are you ever gonna write anything new? Like, or are we just gonna do the same material?" And I just found out that I just lost the motivation. After a while, started doing some showcases. After a while, I was like, "Hey, I don't really like the way the directions that these promoters are throwing shows." And I was looking at, I grew up in Olympia, so I was going to, punk shows and hardcore shows at the Manium or Lavoyer. And I was like, this is how I imagine a show is supposed to be run. So I just started throwing my own shows because I thought that that's what artists were supposed to do. That's what I virtually thought. So I was like, "Hey, I want to perform on this night, and I'll book the headliner, I'll book the openers beforehand, and we'll, write out some set times." Long story short, I started doing that at the South Pacific in Tumwater. Rest in peace, South Pacific. I started just throwing my own showcases, and what happened just trickled down to all these just touring hip hop artists were like, "Hey, we heard that you're the guy to talk to about booking a show in Olympia. Can you help us out?" So I would, book some shows at Lavoyer or the Southpaw with some touring artists. And then it sort of trickled down into bands started hitting me up. And I was sort of like, okay, so I guess I need to expand my reach. After a while, I just lost the motivation to make music, and I figured out my role essentially. And I'm good at my role, and I try not to boast that, but like, I know that it was difficult. I'm going to say that. Like, long story short, it was difficult for me to say, "Hey, I should probably take a step back." But it was also a step forward because I was like, "Hey, I figured out my passion. I figured out my role. I figured out what I'm good at. I figured out just my piece to the puzzle of that is the Northwest music scene, whether it be in hip hop or, indie rock, psych rock, hardcore, I I just felt like I needed to do more than just rap behind a microphone. I felt like there was more that I was capable of doing. And I'm not saying that there's not anything difficult about what artists do, because they are the reason that I am employed to this day. Like, what they do is awesome, but there is a next step that not every artist is good at doing. And I figured out, "Hey, so you're not good at booking shows, but you're great at performing. I can put you on that stage. I can talk to that talent buyer and say, 'Hey, I've got this dude who's awesome, and I know this band who already has pull. Let's team them up and let's get a crowd into the building.'"